guys, what's up? Welcome back to Reanimagine, where if you haven't seen the segment before, the last one I did with the real Manos was basically what this is about. Is I'm here with MelinaPendulum,
Hi.
another big anime fan, and basically what this is just us talking about rebooting a certain anime for a Western audience in the form of like a comic book rather than a manga, and what ideas we'd play with it if we had the license. Speaking of which is kind of odd, and we're going to be talking about one of mutual favorite anime, Sailor Moon, which is funny because next year we're getting a reboot.
Mm-hmm.
But it's
Yay!
I share the enthusiasm. which is going to follow something like, it's going to be like Dragon Ball Z Kai and FMA Brotherhood. It's going to follow the manga more. So, Melina, what would be your initial thoughts on how you would remake Sailor Moon?
Well, I guess, like I said in another video I did when I was talking about the differences between the first anime adaptation and the manga, is I really feel like they need to keep the dark aspects of the manga still around in the anime, or in any reboot that's done. And I really want them to focus on Sailor Moon as a character being a leader, because I feel like what they did in the anime was really infantilize her and make her kind of really, really ditzy, so that you kind of always constantly undermined the fact that she was a powerful person. I mean, to compare her to like someone like Goku, like even though Goku was always really like goofy and over the top, you knew that when things got serious that he could definitely carry the team and be the leader. And while Sailor Moon did have those moments, it always just kind of seemed like because she was the princess, that's why she was the leader, and not because she was the strongest of the scouts.
Yeah, and truth be told, there were points in like early on in the original anime where it felt like Sailor Mars was the leader.
Mm-hmm.
Which would be interesting. If I could have any say, like in the early days, I would play up that. Well, actually, before we go any farther, since this is a Western audience, this is for, would you keep the American names or keep the Japanese names?
I honestly feel like you should just keep the Japanese names, because it just makes more sense. I mean, it is taking place in Japan, and so unless you're going to just completely switch it over and make it America, I figure it just makes more sense to keep it the way it is.
Alright, so glad we got that quickly out of the way. So what I would basically do is have Usagi, she would, like in the original anime where she was very kind of unsure what to do, I would keep that, because here is a girl you are thrusting into a situation. Not only did she just find out she's a reincarnation of a princess from the past, or future as sometimes they put it, they were never really specific.
From the past.
In the past, right. She's a reincarnation of a princess of the past, and she's basically being thrown into a situation where she has to become the protector of the world. And I would keep that, like, she has no idea what the hell she's doing, because she's just a typical high school girl.
Well, I do agree with that they should keep that kind of thing, but she doesn't figure out that she's a princess until much later, and I think that it's not so much that her having doubts was the problem, it was the fact that she was always running away from things, and it turned into, instead of it being like her being unsure, it was more played as, oh, she's just dicks. She doesn't really know what she's doing. She's just a whiny crybaby. And I felt like that's kind of what they did more in the anime than actually being, oh, I really don't know what to do. Rather, it's just kind of like, I can't do anything, tuxedo mask.
Yeah. I think I would for like the first arc, if I could write this. I think for the first arc, I would definitely play up that she doesn't know what she's doing and actually gets her ass kicked a lot. And then I would give her like, I'd actually make her more of a personality, like kind of like a female Peter Parker. Give her Usagi that. And she eventually kind of wakes up and is like, okay, I've got to step up now. And in doing so, she basically trains herself, not just as Sailor Moon, but as herself when she's not, when she's not in that form, to be more prepared for these situations. Because if we've learned anything from Madoka Magica, you could get killed brutally. So
I think that some stakes is something that they could improve upon, because there's kind of this notion of, yeah, everyone's gonna be okay, it's not really gonna end badly. But I don't think that's something that you can completely change off. I mean, I think it'd be interesting if you could play with, like, more of the scouts dying permanently. But then it comes to the other thing of, like, who would you choose to die?
yeah, we'll talk about that in a little bit. So, what scout do you want to talk about next?
I think Venus, because one of the things I noticed is that in the anime, they really didn't give her much of a personality of her own. She kind of just felt like Usagi Part 2. And it's kind of like, when it comes down to it, she's technically, like, if we're going to put a little Game of Thrones in it, she's the captain of the Queen's Guard, which is basically what the Sailor Scouts are. Like, she's the leader of all of them, and that means that she's the second most powerful scout of the main team after Sailor Moon. So I feel like what I wanted to do was to show her more being independent, because she has her own, the Sailor V manga, where she has her own missions and stuff like that. I want to see more of that, like, see her really taking the initiative and being the powerful scout that she is. I mean, she got to kill one half of the big bads herself in the manga, so I kind of want to see her more be independent and more be her own powerful figure instead of just being like another scout.
Yeah, that would be good, and not make her, because I remember thoroughly in the anime they made her more boy crazy than Usagi was. I would definitely play with that, and actually I think I would make Sailor Venus a little more darker than the rest of the scouts, because, like you said, she's the captain of the Queen's Guard, and I think I would, eventually, like, a lot of the girls would be like, oh yeah, this is fun, but eventually it turns into something even bigger, and eventually all of them, especially Sailor Venus, is like, yeah, we've got to step up, and if we got to get our hands dirty. That's one way of looking at it. So let's move on to my favorite of the group, Mars.
Yay, she's my favorite too.
What would you do with Mars?
Well, I really hate how the anime turned her into, so I really want to stick more to her manga counterpart if we did a reboot of that. And also to do more stuff with her status as a Miko, because technically, like, she has those kind of spiritual powers and things like that. To really, like, I feel like they should have had more side stories with her dealing with those issues that weren't necessarily Megaverse related, but were with the dark issues going on just in Tokyo itself.
Yeah, and they kind of dropped that. I would play up a little more that she does have she is kind of, in this kind of reboot, I think I would make her more of a distant kind of girl from the rest of them. Like, she's kind of socially awkward because she kind of, like, can see all this supernatural stuff, even when she was a child, and I would eventually have her, like, she's kind of like the distant scout, not really with the rest of them, and eventually kind of molds into the group.
The thing that, well, I think that that's a good idea. I also think that, like, when you get to the rest of the scouts who basically do already fill that kind of role of being distant, that it would get kind of repetitive.
Yeah, but actually, what I would do is actually have every scout for themselves. Like, they each get their own powers, and they don't really work together as a group. They each do their own thing, and eventually, they kind of get their shit together and, like, yeah, we gotta work together on this. And I'd actually have it, like, for the first few arcs, like, they hate each other.
I mean, I get what you're saying, but one of the big themes I always liked about Sailor Moon was the fact that it was a female friendship series. Like, that they were stronger together, and that they all kind of need each other as part of a group thing. I guess maybe, like, having them be reluctant to become part of a group initially, but it's like hating each other. I really like the fact that they were friends for the most part, and that they were able to work together. Because we didn't see a lot of that when that initially first came out. I think that that's one of the things that made it so important as, like, just not as a manga series, but like a female designated manga series.
All right. So.
But I mean, your idea doesn't have to completely agree with mine. I'm just saying, like, my own 2 cents. That I would make them reluctant to be part of the group, but it'd be more of a sense that they're afraid of, getting involved oh, they hate each other so they can't work together.
Yeah, that's actually what I meant, is more like they don't like working, they feel like they can accomplish more. They don't necessarily hate each other, they just hate working in a group because it kind of, they have their own style to it. Each one of them has their own way of working out problems and kind of dealing with, like, I actually have, like, when Sailor Mars gets her powers, I actually have it like her and Venus will kill people. And that kind of doesn't sit well with the rest of the Scouts. Something like that, like the ideals are kind of clashing. So, we still got two more. Which one do you want to talk about now?
I guess Mercury, because she gets shafted a lot because she's not really the most active of the Scouts. But you always need a character like that. I know in one of the adaptations, they had, like, a dark Mercury.
Yeah, in the live action.
Yeah. So I guess doing something more with her to make her more of a central figure would be kind of interesting. Specifically working with the fact that, like, she controls water, and she has, like, water and ice powers. I mean, that's something that's really, like, can be dark, and maybe having her one day be, like, the pacifist character, but then being forced to kind of push herself and use her powers in a way that she's not comfortable doing. Because I was just watching Xena, and there's this whole arc that happens where Gabrielle is kind of like the main pacifist character, and kind of like the heart of the group. She ends up having to kill someone, and it leads to this whole kind of spiral downwards for that character. And having that kind of happen with Mercury would be kind of interesting to me.
Yeah, that could work. I would make her a little bit like Rey, like I said, the socially awkward one, but not for the same reasons as Mars. More like she's always got her head buried in books, and she's never really been able to make friends in the past, and this kind of drives her to be a little more distant from the rest of the group on those grounds. But she eventually, working with the rest of the Scouts, kind of really brings out her more social side through, a few stories here and there. Something like that. But I would like to do a loose adaptation. I would love to do a loose adaptation of the Dark Mercury stuff. So I guess that just leaves Jupiter. I think Jupiter was always the one that was like, yeah, let's do it. This is going to be fun. I would do that, like when they all initially get the Sailor Moon powers. I would play around that she is the one having most fun with it, while the rest of them are like, I don't know what the hell to do with this. Where she's like, oh yeah, we're superheroes now, this is going to be awesome. And then she gets her ass kicked the first time, and now she's kind of like, well, maybe I kind of got a little too headstrong about it. Or maybe, she's trying to save someone, and her actions lead to someone getting killed, and it makes her rethink the situation.
Well, I guess I kind of see Jupiter in a different way, because I feel like she was always, like, they kind of said that she was always kind of misunderstood because she was always so strong. So I kind of feel like while she is a fighter, that it's not something that she kind of relishes in doing. Like, she's a very strong person. She can use her powers in a lot of dark ways, but she doesn't necessarily want to. Like, I feel like of all the Scouts, she would be the more socially awkward because she's so used to people assuming something about her that's not really true to who she is. And so, while she wants to be in a group, she has to kind of reluctant to put herself out there because she doesn't want them to think that she's this really violent person. And so, like, her power is something that, like, while she knows she can do good with them, she's kind of afraid to use them because she doesn't want to reestablish that kind of part of her that she's kind of running away from. I guess I just see her kind of differently than being the really, like, yeah, let's kick some ass person.
Yeah, that'd be cool. So I guess that just leaves Tuxedo Mask, or as I like to call him, the most the most pwned character in the series. I mean, seriously, he doesn't get shit in the series. All he does, throw Rose, then get smacked around.
Well, the manga was different, because he had his own power.
Yeah, I know he got a power-up from the generals, later on in the manga.
Yeah, he ended up getting his own power and having his own stuff. So he was a lot more active, and he wasn't just the cheerleader of the group. Yeah. So he got to do a lot more things.
Yeah. I wouldn't have Mask and Moon together from the get-go. I would not have that. I would actually have it like Tuxedo Mask has been doing this kind of job for a while, and then he meets Sailor Moon, and it's like, well, who the hell are you? You know, you're gonna. It's kind of like she's the new hero on the block, and she's kind of putting herself out there, and it's like, no, you can't do that. You know, your enemies are gonna find out, and it eventually comes like from a partnership to a relationship.
So you're kind of doing more of a Catwoman, Batman sort of thing.
Is that not a good idea?
No, I'm just asking, like, if that's kind of like your idea, like a kind of like reluctant partnership thing, and how they work differently. So that's kind of like how you wanna.
Yeah, that's basically how I would do it. Is something like a Batman Catwoman relationship.
Okay.
What would you do?
I guess, I mean, I kind of like your idea of him having done this already, because with him losing his memories and him not really having family, that kind of would definitely put him in more of a Batman-y position of someone who wants to go out and kind of protect people and things like that, but also being tormented by it. He doesn't know what's going on in his life. With the whole him and Sailor Moon thing, I think that would be interesting to have it kind of played out more and have it, stretch out a little bit longer. But I feel like if people knew the original source material, like if we're still considering this universe that was like a sort of natural reboot, it kind of be like, well, what are you waiting for? It's how I feel with those kind of mediums where it's like, it's a reboot, but you know how it ends together. It's kind of like, yeah, you guys are fighting now, but we know you're going to get together soon. So the whole will they or won't they thing kind of gets dragged out, where it's kind of just like, yeah, but we know they're going to get together.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just saying that I would eventually put them together. I just like to put that spin on the series.
I get that. That's cool.
Yeah. So I guess that leaves the what else? Like
Those are your outer scouts, and then.
Yeah. Or do you want to save the outer scouts for later?
Okay, cool. I don't mind whatever you want to do them for.
All right. So I guess like how I would write this series is more like a fun superhero science fiction type series, kind of like what I was saying with the Tenchi Muyo series, something along those lines of being a fun superhero drama, but also keep kind of those dark elements that the show was known for, but still have that cheery outside to it as well. I would play, again, like I said earlier, I would play up the, hey, it's the fun magical girl stuff, but you're gonna get your ass stomped a few times.
Okay, so you want to do it more as a deconstructional magical girl series than just kind of like a straight magical girl series.
Yeah, thank you, Madoka Magica, for introducing that idea to me. I feel like I kind of, with that kind of deconstructionist view, I kind of like the way it's done in Revolutionary Girl Utena more, where it's more about like the psychological elements than the magical girl aspects of it. Because I feel like with the idea of the past lives and the knowledge that they have this kind of responsibility and those kind of things play more into it, and knowing that, for them to know their memories sooner, to like know where they come from, know more about the Moon Kingdom and those kind of things, and have the trauma of like they have all died already. They know that they can lose, and they have this knowledge the entire time. So as they're fighting and going through this, at the end of the road is this kind of knowledge of like, last time we fought this person, we all died. Yeah, and I think like a lot of them, I think a majority of the scouts would take this kind of differently. Like maybe some of them would give up, and the other ones would kind of accept destiny, and the other half would be like, we can change this. And I think that would be a nice clash of ideals among them. I think that would even like there would be points where I actually would have a bit of a authority thing between Mars and Venus. I mean, it's not Sailor Moon and Sailor Venus. I would have like, you may have been my queen in the past, but we're not in the past anymore. I'm gonna, if you do something or give an order that I don't like, and it might get us killed, I'm not gonna follow it.
Yeah, that's definitely a good thing that would come up with that.
Yeah. I'm not saying like I'd make them like Venus is out to take Sailor Moon's place. It's more like an authority. It's a question of authority.
because it's not a monarchy anymore, you know, and so it's like, why should they feel bound to those ideas if that's not the world that they're living in anymore?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. What would you? How would you play around with this?
Like with the whole idea of the how they're fighting and stuff within each other.
Yeah, and how you think the team would work in this kind of new universe.
Well, I think it would end up being a lot like, kind of like how, not to keep bringing up Madoka, but like how there are these scouts who kind of are doing their own thing. And like that, I feel like there'd be probably more division, like they go on their own kind of assignments and stuff like that. I almost kind of would like to expand the team more and make it almost like a Justice League kind of thing. Like you have all of these scouts who are trying to protect this world and be united, but there's just always this kind of idea of like, this kind of power structural kind of thing going on where like they know Sailor Moon's their leader, like officially, but it's also this idea of like why, and having this whole thing where Sailor Moon has to prove herself and always have to like rise to the occasion and really prove to them like there's a reason why I am the leader of the Scouts. So I feel like there would definitely be a sense of division between them all. I think more so, because I think it's probably like Mars would probably side more with Venus, whereas Mercury and Jupiter would probably side more with Sailor Moon. And so she even had the whole thing of like more of the leading side with her than they do with Venus, and that adds more conflict because they have this idea of how things should really happen.
Yeah.
And I think also the idea of that, you know, in the past, Sailor Moon, I mean, Perfect Serenity was not a warrior. So then it's also this kind of thing of like, well, why are you all of a sudden the scout? Why do you think that you have the right to rule over us when you weren't even a scout in the past?
Yeah, that would be a good thing. Like, what constitutes you to still give us orders when you were like in a past life? You just sat back and and watched us die. That's a good point.
Yeah, because I think like in the anime it's different, but in the manga, like she committed suicide when Enyamon was killed, and so it's just like they probably like, well, how do we know that if something happens to your boyfriend that you're not going to go and kill yourself again? Like, how do we know that you are going to be here and be our leader when your romantic life kind of gets involved?
Yeah, and I think that would be like one of the scouts, probably Mars, would probably pull her away. Like, look, no matter what happens, you're gonna get hurt. You know, mentally or either physically or you have got to make a choice. It's the world or your love life. You cannot keep doing this. And I think that would cause a little more friction between her and her boyfriend a little more, and make it a little more interesting rather than, it's always come back to you and everything's going to be okay. It's not okay, because you killed yourself and took out half the world with you when he died the last time. As I recall in the manga, Princess Serenity wiped out nearly all of mankind when Endymion died.
I don't think that's actually what happened in the manga.
You sure? Or am I...
live action series, they made it kind of like Serenity was a much darker character. But I think in the manga, like when she died, it just kind of like it was just a sad event, and then her mother was the one who like sealed everything off. I don't think like when she died, she wiped out anything.
I'm totally... You see, there's so much continuity I'm trying to remember. Yeah. Well, I would play around with... I would do something like that and keep that dark Serenity character still in there, and it kind of lingers on Usagi's mind, like it's kind of there that she knows she's going... if anything happens in this time period, she might repeat what she did in a past life. And I think that makes her a little more nervous, especially when she's in leadership, because she knows the first time she did this, she got all of them killed. And I think that would kind of fracture her on the leadership, and I think she would actually give the lead... I would actually have her where she says, I don't think I'm cut out to be leader yet, and she would either give the leadership role to Mars or Venus.
But then she has to come back eventually because she's the one who can wield the crystal, and so they have to.
Yeah, but it's a temporary thing. Like the first time they're working, yeah, like the first time they work in a group and she can't lead the rest of the scouts, and they lose. I'd actually have her go up, like I said, maybe Venus more, and like, okay, I can't do this. You have got to lead the team until I feel ready. So, that's something I would do. I think another thing, and I'm going to talk, you want to talk a little bit about the first villain we saw, Queen Beryl.
Yeah.
I think Queen Beryl in the original manga and anime, her just loving Endymion and not getting him, was kind of like an all-out stupid idea for wiping out an entire kingdom.
Well, in the manga, it's like Queen Matilla, who is the real big bad, was the one who kind of mind controlled them. Like, she used mind control and things to make the planet go against the moon. Because what happened was, like, they had this kind of sense of paranoia that, you know, they were kind of half immortal. They had all this power. They had a silver crystal. And so they were already afraid of the Moon Kingdom. And so Matilla used Beryl's jealousy and everyone else's fear to make them wage war against them.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'd actually would like to do something like that. Like maybe the Moon Kingdom is kind of like the Time Lords of Gallifrey. They're the end all be all, and everyone fears them. That's just a minor idea, and I'd actually say like, yeah, they're good people, but when the shit hit the fan, they brought the hammer down. Like if there was any quarreling or anything, boom, it's just. No talk about it. If you're an enemy, you're wiped out. And I think that would kind of culminate more people against the Moon Kingdom.
So you want to turn the Moon Kingdom into, instead of it being its own separate thing, of being like an authoritative thing?
Well, it's a supreme power. Like like there are other kingdoms around, and they're all kind of like it's kind of like in Game of Thrones, like the Lannisters are the prime family. And all the other houses are kind of like, yeah, we can't mess with them because they've got all the good shit.
Well, there is this sense that, like, the Moon Kingdom is kind of like, it'd be kind of like King's Landing, because all the other scouts are princesses from different planets. So, there is this sense that they're unified around the Moon Kingdom.
Yeah,
Oh, and I did look it up. It is in the live-action series that when Serenity kills herself, that it destroys the Moon Kingdom.
Ah, I was right on. See, I was remembering it, but just not from the series. Yeah, that's something I would do. Is like the Moon Kingdom is like the supreme power. Like they're the one keeping everything in balance. Like, kind of like I said, or like the Time Lords, where there was kind of all the planets were before. Kind of at unease with each other, and then in comes the Moon Kingdom. Was like, all right, we're gonna get our shit straight.
Right.
And then I'd actually have it like there are even though all the planets are united, there are people on each planet that are like, yeah, should we really give all this power to the Moon Kingdom? Mm-hmm. And I think that would kind of culminate more with Queen Beryl. Like they're all kind of like idealists and renegades that are like, and Queen Beryl is kind of like rallying them all to her, so she can lay siege to the Moon Kingdom.
Okay, cool.
And that kind of would explain, like, all the endless monsters that follow her, regardless, like, because, you just do see a lot of soldiers working for her blindly, and I would give them a reason that, yeah, they all saw the Moon Kingdom as a threat.
Because technically, like, the people that she has before, the generals, are, you know, whatchamacallit, are people from Earth.
Yeah.
So maybe, and there are all those people in the background who you're like, who are these people? Why are they here? So that would explain where they all came from.
Yeah. And I'd even say, like, I'd actually have Queen Beryl, like, look at Usagi's like, you call me the bad guy. You got, in a past life, your people, your people was given way too much power, and in the end, it all fell apart. I had nothing to do with it. Like, she's kind of messing with it with Usagi's head. Like, the fact that your kingdom tried to be these self-important gods made all these people hate you so much.
To add some more ambiguity to the whole situation.
Yeah, exactly. Something along those lines, and the generals I'd even have it like the generals are kind of very distrustful of Endymion for the kind of the same reasons. Like, yeah, we're too powerful, we're too big for ourselves, and I think that makes the rest of the world the rest of the universe scared of us. So in the end, they kind of like, yeah, we're gonna take you out of power because no one should have this much power alone.
And I think that adds a good idea. Like, I think, like, because I remember, I think what would be interesting is, like, instead of it just being, like, blind jealousy that makes the people attack, it being kind of like a corrupt thing. Because you know how in Justice League, how Lex Luthor hacks into the systems, and he makes it so that they actually attack Earth by accident, but it's not really their fault?
Yeah.
I think something like that would be really, really good for, like, to have, like, Queen Matilda think, okay, I need to make it so that everyone who already is suspicious gets really suspicious. And so what they do is, like, she manages to get some kind of control system. Maybe, like, she brainwashes Artemis or Luna because they somehow got clearance control because, you know, they're special cats. And she manages to have it, like, they manage to attack Earth, even though it's by accident, and they cause some, like, damage in some, like, remote area. And that prompts the entire, you know, planet Earth to be like, they have to go. Yeah.
And in the present time, I would have Beryl still do that. Like, I would have, when the scouts are just starting out, I would actually have Beryl, like, sending, like, some of her warriors out there to, like, not outright attack the scouts, but more like kind of infiltrate certain parts of the media and the government to actually build some distrust among the people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, kind of like one gets control of gets his say, like, it becomes an editor-in-chief in a newspaper, and they write all these horrible stories about them. I'd even have, like, some, like, in the media just horribly bashing the scouts on how reckless they are.
Mm-hmm. Kind of like, you know, always in, like, superheroes, that was like, yeah, you saved the day, but you left, like, thousands of dollars in property damage.
Yeah. So, it's not just, you know, because, let's face it, in the manga and the anime, they did a lot of damage, they never paid for it. Like, it was all like, oh yeah, the scouts are awesome! Who's gonna pay for this shit?
Well, I don't think that they did that much damage when it came in the manga. I don't know, I don't remember in the anime. I know they had that whole fight with an airplane. And that definitely would have left a lot of... They actually, I remember in the dub, actually mentioned that, like, this thing's cost a lot of money, we can't just blow it up.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought up Artemis and Luna. I totally forgot about them.
Yeah. The Guardian Cats. I don't really know. They're just there to, like, be the Gileses of the Scouts, because they don't really serve that big of a purpose beyond that.
They were like Alpha and Zordon. It was like, oh yeah, we're gonna give you all this information, good luck.
Yeah, have fun with this. But what does it all mean? We actually don't know.
Exactly. I don't know what I'd do with them, truthfully. I know they do more in the manga, but it's been fucking forever since I've read the manga, and...
They don't do that much more. Their roles are pretty much to be, like, support, you know, helping out, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Like Alpha and Zordon!
Exactly.
Just if I ever get to write this comic, I'm going to tell Artemis, I'm going to have Artemis say to Sailor Moon, "May the power protect you."
Oh god.
Just one line. Just sneak it in there.
Who would be Alpha and who would be Zordon?
I think Luna would be more like the Alpha type. I wouldn't have her go, ay, 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 ay.
Luna was more mature than Artemis. There was kind of this sense that like, Artemis was a little bit more flaky, but I really don't know why I think that, except that I remember, like, he was the one who was in the computer secretly.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why you couldn't see him as Zordon. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know either. It's just...
The cat's just kind of there.
Yeah. I'd actually, now that I think about it, I'd actually not put them in this universe. Because I don't really see the big point. Like, all they would do is just give information and stuff. And if I did, I'd actually have them... I would actually have some of the scouts questioning him, like, you know all this, you know, why can't you tell us more? It's like, there are certain laws that we can't break.
Well, I feel like if you were gonna, like, get rid of them, what you could do instead is, like, because in the manga, and you could take it over that, not Princess, Queen Serenity downloaded her subconscious into a computer. So instead of them getting advice from, like, the cat, they're actually getting it from the mother, who's still kind of alive. And it's kind of like her giving their legacy to them. But then it also has this whole idea of, like, so we're taking advice from our quote-unquote leader's mom.
Yeah, that actually would work better. And now we come to the greatest part ever. Chibiusa.
Oh, Chibiusa. She got fucked when it came to, like, characterization in the anime. They made her so annoying.
So what would I do with Chibiusa?
Well, would you even keep her around? Are you still gonna do that whole the 31st century thing?
Actually, yes, I was. I was actually... the idea I had is her time traveling and telling them all... you know, actually, I'd actually have it her, rather than, you know, coming from the future and just be like, oh yeah, I'm just a new Sailor Scout, don't mind me, and then eventually find out it's her daughter. I'd actually have it like her time traveling has caused disastrous effects on the time stream. Because you go back in time, you meet your future mother and father, and you have royally fucked everything up. You have drastically altered the timeline. See, this is one thing that I really...
wasn't, like... But didn't people follow her through that same timeline, and that's why they got attacked by, like, the Black Moon Kingdom in the first place?
Exactly. I'd actually have this on a more grander scale, because I'd have her like, okay, you were never meant to travel in time. You were forbidden to do that. And in fact, when she does, it's more like for a dire need. Like, rather than just go back and learn to be a Sailor Scout, it's more like, yeah, I've got to correct something, or it's gonna, but no matter what she does,
but the first time, but when she initially goes back, she does so through Pluto, who is the guardian of time, and she comes back to save the future. So it's not like she just came back to be like, oh, I want to learn to be a Sailor Scout.
Yeah, you see how much I'm forgetting, guys?
I'm here, because I just finished reading that chapter a while ago.
Yeah, and I would actually have more of Sailor Pluto. She is like like you said, like we all know, is the guardian of time. I'd actually have it that even though she wasn't supposed to do that, she's hoping that maybe Chibi can, you know, recorrect this timeline, but instead every time, and it wouldn't be the first time she sends Chibiusa back. This is just
one of many.
Yeah, one of many eras, because she's had to reboot the timeline so many times. Because every time she sends Chibi back, the timeline is completely worse, and it splits off into a new reality. And
but the only thing I think is kind of would be messed up with that like the rules for Pluto herself state that she herself cannot affect time directly.
Yeah.
Like, she can only do it indirectly. So there's no, like, she would not be allowed to reboot the universe unless you're going to change that canon.
Yeah, I that's what I was getting at, is like, I would change that, but however, I would give her a higher power to answer to.
Well, the threat in the beginning is like, if you break these rules, you're gonna die. So.
Yeah. This time travel just melts your brain. So that's just that's something I'd do a little bit more. Also, I would have it like say Usagi has no idea, how to react when she finds out this is her kid from the future that is eventually going to come back to this time at this point in time, and everything's going to start up again. I'd actually have her like, yeah, you're my kid, so, and you told me all this stuff, so how am I supposed to react, And I wouldn't have it like, oh, it's so beautiful. It's more like, holy shit. Because how would you really react if you met a guy or girl that came back is probably, that is, that is still a child, or even if you want to go by Trunks Saga standards, which I'm not, comes back almost as old as you and says, hey, I'm your kid. How would you really react?
Holy shit.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember, like, with the whole thing about, you talking about, like, how would she react? Like, I remember in the manga, Usagi was actually jealous of Chibiusa and the relationship that she had with Enumen and Mamoru, because she felt like, this is a kid who's supposed to be our kid, but I have no relationship to her, and you just are basically, like, spending all this time with her, like, you don't know who she is, really. And there's this whole element of, like, how does she really fit into our life if she's supposed to be, like, that kind of thing was going on already? So I think, like, if you were gonna, like, make it revealed early, because they don't find out until later on that she's their kid, that there'd be this whole tension of, like, because I remember in the manga, too, she also, like, invades Usagi's own life. It's just kind of like, what are you doing? I can't stand you.
Yeah. That would be something. That would be something I'd like to tinker around with, and something that would be interesting to deal with. Next up on the list is the Outer Scouts. I know we talked about Pluto, so my personal favorite, well, second personal favorite, Saturn. Saturn. Oh, this is a tough one to talk about, because she's pretty much death and rebirth.
I honestly feel like her arc and her story is pretty solid, even if you look at it, like, even from now, like, reading it, I think it still has that same kind of really dark effect. You have this girl gets in this accident, and she basically is reborn in a sense, but as this machine, and as this vessel for this other creature that she has absolutely no control over. Everyone she loves in life is either using her or dead. And then the one people who actually care about her end up being her enemies over something that she cannot control herself.
Yeah. That is something I would play up more, is that she is, she's so mentally, I'd actually, like, she's unstable. She's mentally unstable because she's been through this abuse. She basically views herself as a monster, and she can't really speak out her feelings properly, and this all kind of culminates into a more darker version of Saturn. Something like, I would like to do something like that.
Yeah, especially when you get into her whole Mistress 9 persona.
Yeah.
That ends up coming out.
Yeah. I'd actually keep Mistress 9 around, rather than...
Well, Mistress 9 is technically a culmination.
Hello?
Hello?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like Mistress 9 is basically a accumulation of all the stuff that's been going on in her life. It's like her ascending, but into a darker plane of existence instead of a better one.
Yeah, it's her Dark Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
I actually would keep Mistress 9 around. Rather than end that persona, I would actually have that persona, the Mistress 9 persona, still lingering in Saturn's head.
No, I think it makes sense. I was agreeing with you that it made sense, especially when you consider that Mistress 9 as a part of her existence.
Yeah. Like, they beat her down the first time, but it's still inside of her. Still, kind of giving her... kind of still giving her suggestions in her head, and this kind of makes her a bit more of a harder scout because Mistress Nice still has a little say in the matter in her head, in her mind.
So would you not have her come back as a kid again?
I would not. I would not have her come back as a kid. I'd have her like, oh yeah, Mistress Nine is gone, but not all the way gone. Like, it's kind of like the lingering shadow behind her.
Gotcha.
But what about you?
With Saturn?
Yeah.
Well, keeping in with what you said, I think it'd actually be interesting to have her come back still as a kid and have that Mistress Nine personality influence her while she is growing up. Like, having it be, like, almost her imaginary friend kind of person. Like, who are you talking to? Oh, Mistress Nine. Like, she's there, slowly influencing her. And so, like, that shadow of her is always there. And even though, like, she's been reborn in another sense and she should be innocent, there's a sense of her that comes back already tainted.
Yeah. That actually kind of kicks the shit out of my idea. Truth be told, that does kind of beat out my idea. What about, Uranus and Neptune?
Uranus and Neptune, I mean, like, I have to admit, I don't think much about them in general. I mean, they kind of just fulfill a specific purpose. They are the scouts who have a mission that's higher than the sailors, than the big five of the Sailor Scouts, or big four, whatever. And so they basically, they do what they have to do, but they don't actually give a shit about the scouts as a whole.
Yeah, I would have them more in tune with the rest of the scouts, but more kind of distant. Like, they are the real veterans. They've seen it all. They've been doing this a lot longer than they have, and actually feel like you're not cut out for this. You're sloppy. The leadership is just terrible. And actually, like, I'd even have it like Uranus and Neptune are like, yeah, we'll take it. We'll take over this team by force if you don't shape it up and fly right.
Well, then the question I would have though is, then why didn't they come up during Barrel? Because the whole thing was like they have a specific mission to fulfill, and that's why they don't get involved with the stuff because it's not part of what they are meant to do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, they would be still part of that mission, and they would. This is how they would first encounter the scouts, is still fulfilling that mission. And when they first see them for the first time, it's like, okay, other scouts, good God, they're terrible. Something like that, and rather than completely, because I know they kind of toned it down in the anime, I would, keep Uranus and Neptune together, because for those who don't know out there, they're lesbians.
Yeah, I mean, in the Japanese anime, they're still lesbians. It's very clear, but in the dub, they made them cousins.
Yeah, I'm just talking to the I'm referring to the people who never watched the original Japanese. I mean, I'm not for anyone out there who just thought I called them stupid. No, I didn't. I just know a lot of people who've seen the dubbed more than the original Japanese subbed. Not trying to offend anyone, just just getting it out there. No need to cause alarm. But yeah, I would play it up like hell. I'd even just to make it a little more interesting, I'd actually have them married.
That would be cute. Not just cute, but you know what I mean. That would be good. I think that they made it. I think that'd be a really good thing for them. They already act like a married couple anyway, and they do seem older. Like, I know they're kind of like they're supposed to be the same age, but I think it makes sense for them to be older than the rest of the scouts.
Yeah. I would have Uranus and Neptune married, but not just on the not because let's just have them married for the sake of marriage. No, I think that would actually make their relationship and bond as partners stronger now that they're married lovers.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that would make them a little more closer. I think that would make them a little. I'd actually kind of make them warm up to the idea, because Neptune was always like Neptune more than Uranus was more like, yeah, we could work with you guys and I think it it would be Neptune who'd be like, let's just give him a chance, see what happens, and then we'll make our final decision rather than just look at them and go, they suck.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that would Uranus would be the one to Neptune, excuse me, to get Uranus to work more with the scouts, and
she'd be more willing to help them and teach them.
Yeah, kind of like a motherly, a den mother type thing.
I think that it fits with her character. She is very much the more affectionate of the two of them.
Yeah. I'd actually play more with why Uranus is a little more distant than everyone else. The whole thing with the planets. I'd actually have it that, yeah, during for the longest time, her people were wiped out. They were decimated by years of war. And the Moon Kingdom, oh yeah, you guys stuck with the inner galaxy mostly, but you never gave a shit about us. Once we passed that asteroid belt was the point of no return. You never came for our help.
Except Jupiter somehow managed to get in there.
Yeah, good point, but still I would have it the outer regions outside beyond Jupiter is more yeah.
Well, maybe they don't like Jupiter the most because I feel why was she chosen and not the rest of us? Was it too much effort for you to go a little bit further down?
Yeah. Or maybe there were other problems. I'd actually write in, yeah, there were other problems with those planets. The people there were a little more savage, they were a little more distant than everyone else, and they felt like it was a bad gamble to work with the people of those planets. Mm-hmm. More so, I think I would make the people of Pluto more they are the people on Pluto were a pseudo government for the outer planets, excluding Jupiter. Mm-hmm. They made their own kind of alliance and their own kind of their own kind of group, and kind of oh yeah, the Moon Kingdom completely fucked us over, but hey, we still got us.
Yeah.
That's just something really play into that, why a lot of the outer scouts are more yeah, you guys aren't really on our caliber. It's more more in the past, no, you fucked us over. Mm-hmm. So something along those lines, something like that, I think would be interesting. So now we come to one of the biggest parts, and this is something when Manos and I talked about which characters we'd kill off in Tenchi Muyo, we got into it. So now, and death is a big part of Sailor Moon. So, Melina, if you could kill any characters from Sailor Moon and not bring them back because this is comic books, and if no resurrections, you kill them off, they're dead for good. Who would you kill off?
Oh god, okay. I guess if I could kill off any scout and have them not come back, it would be Venus. And it would be Pluto. Venus, because I feel her death would be the ultimate signal to Sailor Moon to be there's no one else. There's no one you can pass this along to. There's no one else that can help you with this. You have to now step up on your own because the one person who, could really lead the best of us is gone. And so now that there's no one else you can push this on to, you have to step up. And Pluto, because I feel her death was a really important thing for Sailor Chibiusa. And so, knowing that her actions led to the death of her one friend, I think it's something that would stay with her and put her on a path to being a great scout, and bringing her back would limit that, I feel.
Oh. That is good. For me, yeah, it would be Venus on those reasons as well, but I'd actually kill off either Jupiter or Neptune. Jupiter because I'd actually have her, she is a very loyal scout, and I would actually have her going down protecting the rest of the girls. Like, there is no other way, and it's kind of like you've seen Avengers, right?
Yeah.
Or it's kind of like that Agent Coulson moment where the heroes are kind of beaten back at the moment, and bad guys are about to win, but in comes Last Scout, and she's making her last stand, and I have her going down fighting. And more like she's giving the time for the scouts to recover or, escape or something like that. Like, you guys go on, I'm taking all these bastards down with me. Something like that. And for Neptune, why I would kill her off, I'd kill her off, like, again, with the line of duty, but more like it's to protect Uranus and kind of show her, we make this sacrifice, we can protect the whole world, and I couldn't bear, I can't bear the thought of living in this universe without you, something along those lines. And I would actually have it like her death would kind of signify she did it to protect Usagi and the rest of the girls. Maybe there is more to them and why Neptune did what she did to protect them, because she saw the potential. And I think that would get Uranus to kind of get closer to the rest of the scouts. Something like that. Something like that.
I think that's a really good idea.
I guess there are so many characters, so many villains in the arc. I couldn't name them all. I mean, what characters would you not make canon in this new series, in this new universe?
Should be Chibi Moon, because I overall don't understand the point of her character. I mean, there's a sense like the Sailor Cosmos thing, but I'm just kind of like, I don't really think that's particularly necessary. And honestly, I don't like Queen Matilda. Like, I understand her purpose, but I would rather have Beryl be, like, the powerhouse herself and not just be a pawn.
Yeah.
In someone else's plan. And I also would get rid of, Wiseman. I would want to have I want the villains to be their own people and not just be pawns in someone else's plan. And I would like for Chibi Usa to choose to become evil for her own reasons and not just because, like, of manipulation by someone else.
Yeah. That would be good. Would you keep her evil?
I think that arc's important to her, and I think that arc would, especially with the death of, Sailor Pluto, it really makes that storyline really strong for her character.
Yeah. That would be something like, and I think that if we did keep her a villain, I think that would be on a grander scale of that would really, really mess with, Mamoru and Usagi's head. Like, this is our daughter, and she's gonna do something that's gonna wipe out all of existence. If we have to end her. It's our child or the universe. And no matter, you could say what you want. When you're a parent, the perspective's kind of changed.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like, I'd actually have the rest of the scouts, like, we know it's your daughter, but, they're...
You do this.
Yeah.
And they're just kind of like, and the thing about it, too, is just, like, you can totally see them being like, yeah, sorry, fuck that shit. That would be the moment where, like, you could definitely see them just being like, sorry, we know that we have a duty, but this is our child. Yeah. And it's like, if you get in our way, it's like, don't get in our way about this. We can try to save her, and they can't save her, no matter what they do. Like, they could even lock her up and try to, purify her or something, and it's never going to work. They've lost their child forever. And then in comes Sacrifice by Pluto. Because what I always liked about the Pluto thing is that it meant that Chibi used to have to snap out of it by herself. No one could save her. She had to save herself. And I feel like that is more poignant than just being like, yeah, we put some magic in her and now she's okay. Yeah.
That would be good, and that would really kind of culminate with what you're saying about how you'd kill off Sailor Pluto.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that would that actually be really good. So the next like I guess you could say big villain, because I never really considered the circus the big villains. Sailor Galaxia. Or as I like to call, or as I like to call her, the the living embodiment of Sailor Moon Ultimatum.
Yeah, she was great.
Yeah.
But I actually, I have to admit, I do not remember a lot about this storyline because I have not really get up to that part in the manga and the anime yet. So I know what happens, but I'm not as detailed as you might be in this area.
Well, it's been a while since I've read the Galaxia stuffs too. All I remember are the Starlights.
Yeah.
The Starlights are something that that I know a lot of really big Sailor Moon fans really like or really hate. How I would go about doing them is more like they're their like kind of like in the manga where they were like their own scouts. I'd actually have them like, yeah, we became our own scouts. We never were authorized by the queen or princess. We did it ourselves. You know, not a lot of the scouts were around back then. We took it on ourselves.
Yeah, I think that works the best, because I think that works the best with the series than having them just be like, yeah, we're just awesome. We are guys who also become women for some reason, even though Sailor Scouts can only be chicks. Whatever. And I know that the writer of the Sailor Moon did not like the fact that they were guys in the anime.
I'd actually keep them women 24/7.
Yeah, she did not like the fact that they transformed from men into women. So I would definitely keep them as female.
Yeah. I'd actually have I'd really change up Galaxia. Like, how I would do it is more like she was the original captain of the guards, but wanted way too much power, and this kind of led to, Queen Serenity to kick her out. Mm-hmm. And this kind of led to Venus becoming the captain of the guards. And I'd actually like Galaxia led a coup against them with a whole army even before Queen Beryl, and led like the first uprising, and it decimated a majority of the inner planets. Mm-hmm. Something like that. I know her story's a little more different, but that's how I'd change her up.
I think that's a good idea. I kind of agree with that, to give her more of a thing, or even have her like maybe have been the one, or maybe be like before it was Princess Serenity, like have a relationship with the Moon family themselves, since you know how the maybe she was gonna be the one, not Queen Serenity to be leader, and then she was like, no, you's a crazy chick, and so they're like, you got to go.
Yeah. That would
like Zula Zuko kind of dynamic, but with sisters and not like brother and sister.
Yeah. That would be good too, and in fact, I'd actually have like Galaxia's uprising and the war between them kind of like why the Moon Kingdom was in charge. Like, yeah, you don't want a power like that getting out of control again, you get behind us.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's really all I have to say. Do you have any final thoughts?
Well, I'm just thinking about overall, like, I like our ideas of how it works.
Hang on. Hang on 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry about that, everyone. Melina, you were saying?
No, I was saying I really agree with the ideas that you had before, and I think they're really interesting in kind of changing it from an anime manga into a comic book. So I'm happy with our stuff.
Yeah, So, any final, like, ideas before we go?
Well, I would like to, if we're going to keep the whole Neo Queen Serenity thing going on, I kind of have a sense of, like, when Usagi goes into the future and sees that kind of stuff, that it makes her kind of unsure. Like, maybe she's not sure if she wants to be queen, even though she knows she's going to be, and have it be like, does she really feel like she's qualified for that? And just a kind of sense of carrying on that kind of uncertainty she had from before. Like, it's not enough that she was a princess. Now she's going to be queen of Tokyo, of Earth. And just kind of like, what am I going to do? How am I going to get to that point? Especially when I'm just a kid now.
Yeah, that would be a good thing right there. And I think that might actually, that might snap her into position that, hey, I'm going to be queen of a new Earth very soon. Might want to start working on my on my leadership skills.
Step your game up.
Yeah. So, yeah, that is a good thought. I think I've pretty much said my piece as well. This would be fun to do. This would be fun to do, regardless. And I've always been a fan of the series. Can't wait to see what the reboot for the reboot of the new series will be. Fingers crossed, it'll be awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm really excited for it. Like, there's no words.
I know, you've done like 3 videos on it already.
Yes. I might do more. We'll see.
Yay! Anywho, I'd like to thank MelinaPendulum for coming on here and talking about this.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
And, yeah, you guys tell us, what would you do with the Sailor Moon series? And did you guys like our ideas? You guys let us know. Later.
Bye.